the main aspects of what we have not done in the revision, and then we will follow it up with a meditation, and after that we will just do a summary remarks about the whole text. So that's the plan that we will follow. So in the last class, if you recall, we had done a grouping of verses which can be called yukti. Yukti means logic. So, as again, to give you the overall sense of it, excuse me, let me turn. So, it's interesting. The fact of the matter in the teaching of Vedanta is that the power of ignorance about the reality about ourselves is just amazing. First of all, without someone introducing us to the fact that we are making a great mistake in our life of ignoring our reality, until someone points that out, we can never figure it out. In fact, we have gone through so many lives and we seem to do reasonably okay. We are functioning, we are transacting, we are growing, making money, and then taking care of our health, all of those kinds of things, without ever understanding what's going on. Who am I? Where am I going? What is the reality of it? We don't have a clue. But the power of ignorance, with the Maya Shakti, if you recall, the Maya Shakti we had talked about is very similar to, in fact, much more powerful than sleep. And sleep itself is a very amazing thing. So sleep doesn't mean just shutting your eyes and, the whole samsara, the whole jagat, the whole set of experiences is completely wiped out from us, disconnected from us. This is what sleep does. And the sleep is just one aspect of Maya. Maya is exactly like that. It has an amazing power. And the amazingness of the Maya's power is that ignorance, the power of ignorance, is that I can function and without really understanding what's going on in terms of who I am. This is the power of it. It's just amazing. And it's not as though people are not thinking, they're not intelligent. You look at people and they're anxious to do the right thing in life and so on. But you tell them about the Atma and their eyes glaze over and say, what are you talking about? Try it with, even in my own family, on my own kids and so on. Even though I have the highest love for them, no way. They all say, my dad is involved in something, we don't know exactly what it is. Bless him, I'm very happy that he's not bothering us. He's just happy with whatever he's doing and so on. But don't tell us anything more about it. If I have my kids in this class, just about now they'll be opening up their iPhone and looking at their messages. And it's amazing. All I'm saying is, I'm not complaining or anything, I'm just observing the power of Maya. And then my real purpose of pointing this out is that, so what I said was that until someone points it out, there is not even a possibility of looking at ourselves. But even more interesting, even when we are introduced to the subject matter, we still don't get it. We still don't have any idea. It looks like some words on the text, and we're trying to understand what does it mean and this, that, or the other. And it's not as though we are not trying, we're trying. And we are sincere, but for a long time nothing seems to happen. This is the power of Maya. And so one of the things that I wanted to just have an introduction to it, that and the Shastra knows this. It's not as though the Shastra is disappointed in us or anything like that. It knows that we are of this type very well. It knows it better than we do, exactly what our difficulties are, what our attitudes are. So, and it points out that, in fact, it tells us that the reason you are not able to see this very clearly is because of the following reasons. It has already analyzed it. This has been going on for billions of years, so it's nothing new. Nothing is going to change. That, science and this, that, or the other. No, these are some fundamental parts of the truth. So the Shastra says there are 3 reasons why you are not totally convinced. See, this is the thing. I sometimes feel that people behave in a certain way, and I feel that even if they just knew, it'll be a phenomenal thing. So it is there to be forgiven and to be understood that they don't know. They don't know. It's very much like, you have a person in the class who is a very important person. I don't know, I'm just talking about, let's say there is a Indian ambassador to the US. So, supposing you meet the Indian ambassador to the US at a party, and it's a small party of about 10 or 12 people, and and this happens all the time when the new Consul General comes, then everybody invites him and so on. So supposing an important person, like in fact the Indian ambassador to the US just changed on January 1. I forget his name, but it just happened. And so supposing someone invites to the party and in the party and you meet this person, but you don't know who he is. And you keep discussing trivial things. Have you seen the following movies? That Indian movie was very good. Silly things, this, that, or the other. And here is an important person that you could really understand that, you should bring some subjects to talk to him about the US relationship and what's happening with Pakistan, all those kinds of things. But you don't. Why? Because you don't know. You don't know. So the power of ignorance is amazing. And so if someone were to introduce and say, actually this is what happened. I think I went to a fundraiser, and I forget who that was. It was some congressman who was standing for office. And so we came in and we were talking for about 5 or 10 minutes, and didn't know who it was and so on. And I was talking to him about 3 or 4 people. And then suddenly somebody said, have you met Congressman? He was the main person we came for. I said, oh, I didn't know that. And we were all talking about trivial things by that time. So the point is that introduction is a very important thing, and one doesn't realize it. So anyway, Shastra knows the power of ignorance. So it says, listen, let me suggest to you that there are three reasons why, despite my telling you, so here the thing is that suppose there is the Indian ambassador came and somebody did introduce him to you, and you should now, your eyes should now open up to the possibility of meeting such an important person, and yet you don't do it. You are still talking about local films and 49ers and so on and so forth. Silly. You know, you should talk about some important things. Ask the person. And we don't do it. So this is even, if someone doesn't understand Vedanta at all, that person should be sympathetically forgiven. But the beauty is that people who have been told about Vedanta, still we are acting in a trivial way. Oh, I don't know, one of these days I have to put more attention to it, and how many other books should I read? And you know, this is what everybody says, that we've been reading a lot of books and so on. What else do I need to do? Common questions that come from people. And ultimately, we have to think. We have to think about all of this stuff. Anyway, that's a separate issue. But the point is that the Shastra knows that we don't get it. And it says that there are three main reasons why you don't get it. And those are, as we have discussed it before, Shruti, Yukti and Anubhava. Shruti, Yukti, Anubhava. Shruti, Yukti. So Shruti means the words of a wise, reliable and well-meaning person. Someone that you can respect. This is what Shruti is. So Shruti here means what is really heard by Vedanta. And so why is it so? Because I have doubts. I know Vedanta is telling me this, but then there are a lot of other people. Yoga people are doing this, Sankhya people are doing this, and then Vaishnava people are doing this, the Shaiva people are doing this, and you know, all different kinds of theory. There are theories which says that if you just do some meditation, then that's all that he needs. I just talked to a person just recently, and I think I was telling you this, that you know, you're teaching Vedanta and so on. Do you do any meditation as part of that? So I said, yes, we do. So then I asked him, what do you do? He says, I have a guru of meditation. Meaning that we can figure out exactly what you're doing, but better. Because we don't waste time on reading books or anything, we just do meditation. And I mean, fine, whatever it is, but I don't know, I need to ask him, who is your guru? Is he a knowledgeable person? And if he is not, then this is silly. Just meditation on what? So, all I'm saying is that even Shruti is not properly understood because we have doubts that there are other people that can do the same thing. They can't. Vedas is a apurva pramana, as we saw in the Mandukya class on Saturday morning. Means there is no other way to understand this except through the Vedas. People can have some copies of it which are not very well done. And in fact, all religions are copies of Vedas that are not very well done. So the Vedic knowledge is unique, and one which is so wise and so reliable and so well-meaning that I need to have complete shraddha, faith in it. So this is one of the good things. So Shabda Pramanam. So, you know, there are 6 pramanas, and one of them is Shabda Pramana, means the power of words. Like, for example, the example that we took about the Indian ambassador. Supposing somebody is a jokester, and you can never trust whether the person is telling the truth or is he joking. He's not as though he's a liar, but he jokes. He might have his next door neighbor, and he says, "Meet this person. He's the Indian ambassador to the U.S." When in fact he's just a local guy who's 44, 45 years old and has nothing to do with it. And then you can fall for it. But if someone who's important and reliable says this is an important person you should get to know, then you believe in that person. So the Shabda Pramana is called Shruti. This is one thing. Then the second thing is Yukti, that it must make sense to me from a rational standpoint. And the third one is that it should be consistent with my experience. So this is what Vedanta says, that listen, the sleeping, waking and dreaming is just a state, and you traverse through three of them, but you are independent of them. So this one I can relate to. Yeah, that happens. I don't see the implications of that, but at least I have no problem in relating to the truth of what is being said. So this is called Anubhava. So therefore, these three things have to be resorted to. A complete Shraddha towards what the Shruti is saying, my ability to rationalize it through my thinking, and also understanding that this is indeed my experience. All three of them have to be said. So there we went through, not in that order, but we went through the Yukti. So all the Panchakosha Vivekas, ending with the number 42, Yatha Munjadi Ishikaihi Ishika Eva Atma Yuktya Samudritaha. Yuktya Samudritaha means one which has been separated through Yukti. Sharira Tritayadhiraihi Param Brahma Eva Jayate. So he says that after you take away all the incidentals, only the intrinsic is left. And the intrinsic is Brahma. So this was the Yukti. Now a new method is now given, which is Shruti. So in verse number 43, he says, Para aparatmanoho evam yuktya sambhavita ekata tattvamasyadi vakyaihi sa bhagatyagena lakshyate. So he says, now through with Tattvamasi, it is now used as an example of Shruti. Bhagatyagena lakshyate means that if you see, as you know, so it is given here that just like you see a person who you meet someone, and then someone says, do you recognize this person? So someone who is a reliable person, who is not joking around, is saying, do you recognize this person? And he says, no, I don't. But do you remember your student in such and such town 20 years back? The young brahmachari who came, and his name was Devadatta. And then you say, yes, this is that person. When he was a brahmachari, he was a young man, thin, and 22 years old, and single, and clean shaven and so on. And now he's 42. He's put on a lot of weight. He's got a big beard and so on, and he looks totally different. And then you say, my goodness, you're right. It is the same person. So this is what is called Bhagatyaga Lakshana, as we have seen all of this. This is nothing new. So there it is said is that you remove the current form of the person. You remove the old form of the person, and what remains is the person, is the same person. So this is what is called Bhagatyaga Lakshana. And so the Tattvamasi is exactly like this. So here, Tattvamasi, it means that Ishvara and Jiva are essentially the same person. Then you say, please, 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 don't joke with me. Okay? Don't insult Ishvara. Okay? One who is Sarvashaktiman and has full knowledge, and he's the runner of the whole thing. I can't even spell Ishvara. This is how ignorant I am. Don't do that. He said, no, I'm telling you. It is exactly like Devadatta, who was 22. You remove the form, and the essential parts are the same. Here, one side comment on this. There's a doubt amongst the students of Vedanta, slightly different direction from what we are doing. Doubt between the word Ishvara and Brahman. Ishvara and Brahman. What is the difference between Ishvara and Brahman? Because we use the term interchangeably many times, even though they are not exactly the same. So here Swami Mahesharanji had given a very beautiful example to prove that. He said, supposing a person, is now the President of India, and he is now the President. And as a President, he has a certain role to play and a certain function to perform and a certain special respect for the office. Okay? And then it's very possible, in fact, what happens, that his term ends and he just remains the ordinary person. He's no longer the president. He's the same person, mind you. Same person. There's no difference in it. The looks, his skin, his name, his age hasn't changed at all. But he absorbed a personality to the person. Why? Because he had a role to play. He had a role to play. Somebody had to be the president, and our current president, bless his name, I forget his name. What is his name?
Indian President
Kovind.
Kovind. K-O-V-I-N-D.
Kovind, yes, Kovind. So Mr. Kovind has now become the Prime Minister, the President of India. It's a very important job and so on. But as a president, he is just, even when he just goes to bed, lies down and has meals or something, he's no longer the president. But he has a role to play as a president. He puts on his clothes and then people salute him, and then he goes to the office and he officiates in all these functions and so on. Ishvara and Brahman are exactly the same way. Same way. So Ishvara is the personality of Brahman. And by the way, you and I are also a personality of Brahman. It's not only Ishvara is the personality. You and I are also the personality of Brahman. It's the same Brahman, same Atma. Ayam Atma Brahma, we just saw in the verse 4 or 5 of 3, I think, of the Mandukya. It's same. It's the same person. But as a jiva, it becomes a jiva, takes on the personality of the jiva. And as a Ishvara, it takes on the personality of Ishvara. Same person. That is the beauty of it. So Brahman and Ishvara are one and the same. One is with some function to perform. As a karma phaladata, as a one who is running the whole show, who is the creator, he's Ishvara, but it is really Brahman. So anyway, that's the difference between the Jiva and Ishvara. But here in this Shruti, and so on the Shruti which gives the Tattvamasi Vakya, it starts with verse number 43 and goes quite a bit to discuss that. And I obviously will not go through that. We have gone through the original course. And at the end of that, then it has a section on meditation. The section on meditation, by the way, is relating to Anubhava. You see, it's relating to Anubhava. So, unbeknownst to us, Swami Vidyaranya in his wisdom has given us the basic structure of the teaching, where all three important elements where doubts have to be removed are given. Yukti, Shruti and Anubhava. So this has to be seen. Anyway, so I won't follow the exact logic of Tattvamasi Vakya and so on and so forth. However, let me briefly illustrate the sense of the Shruti and do it in two ways. And hopefully both of them we will incorporate in the meditation that is going to follow very soon. Okay? All right. So the first one is, and by the way, this discussion comes up in several ways in the 6th chapter of Pancadasi. So I'm just giving you a more advanced view of it, just as a way of summarizing the course. So if we were to continue studying Pancadasi, you would have probably seen it, and I'm just going to extract some elements of that from the 6th chapter and bring it here just for a short illustration. Okay? So the first one is the following. Hope I have enough time because I've got lots to do. There is a discussion. There is a discussion between the Advaita Vedanta teacher and a Purva Pakshi. Purva Pakshi means that one who doesn't agree with it and has doubts of it. And so, by the way, in our study, the doubts are of one of two types. One is one who is a student and doesn't get it and says, Guruji, can you please explain this to me because I don't get it? And so there are doubts of that kind. The other one is a complete person of opposition who's not a student. And it says whatever you're saying doesn't make any sense at all. And both will express their doubts in some form or the other. So here, this particular instance, it is the Purva Pakshi, means one who is not a student. So here's how the dialogue goes. Okay? So there is the establishment of non-duality through logic and through Tattvamasi and so on and so forth. And the Purva Pakshi says, okay, I can see what you're saying, but. So he says, what do you mean by but? He says that this is not our experience. So you say, no, it isn't. This is no. Because my experience is of duality alone, not of non-duality. And so, how can you prove non-duality when it is not my experience? That's it. That's my contention. You cannot do it. So, the Siddhanti means the one who is establishing the truth of what is being said by the Shruti. So this is the Purva Pakshi and Siddhanti. Purva Pakshi and Siddhanti. Siddhanti says, follow me. Let me show you why you are actually experiencing non-duality and you don't get it. So there are a couple of elements to this. This is an important thing to see. And very clarified by Swami Maheshananji, very well. And Swami Dayanand also used to say that in different ways. So he used to say, knowledge is always through your intellect. So, do not make a distinction between knowledge and experience. You just have wrong knowledge now, you will get the right knowledge later. This is the way Swami Dayanand used to express it. I find Swami Maheshananji's explanation a little bit more convincing to me, at least to me. Same thing they are both saying. Here's what Swami Maheshananji says. He says, first of all, we are always experiencing something. Always. Always experiencing. Whatever we are looking at things, we are experiencing. The question is, how do we interpret that experience? This is the way, so just follow this logic. How do you mean by that? He says that, listen, Advaita is always your experience. Really? How? He says, look at this. You are looking at some things from this vision of looking at things, some people, situations, and so on and so forth. You are concluding, within parentheses, wrongly, that I am different from what I am seeing. This is what your conclusion is. Your experience is not any different. But suppose you now look at the following way. Your awareness of the things does not change. You are aware of thing number one. Now you are aware of thing number two. Your awareness of thing one and thing two changes, but your awareness per se does not change. You're experiencing different thing, but you are experiencing, always experiencing. Don't you see this? This is Advaita. Don't you see that seeing, and seeing is just one example, hearing, touching, etc., any kind of transactions, does not change your awareness. This was pointed out in the very third verse of this book, Samvit. Same thing in Drikdishya Viveka. Na udayatinas eka, the vritti is always the same. Same thing, everybody is pointing out. So the question is, if the awareness of thing number one and if the awareness of thing number two were two different awarenesses, they will be Dvaita, they will be duality. In fact, you could not function. You could not function as a human being, as any being. Why? Because each awareness is a different awareness from the previous awareness. And so you are person number one and person number two, and you know that you are different people altogether. But that doesn't happen. I am the same person that remembered something a little while ago, and I'm the same person, I'm seeing something else, same person, same awareness. So he says, where is the conclusion? So it's very, very simple. That you are wrongly labeling Advaita as Dvaita. Is it not true? It's not as though it is. So it says that it is not true that it is not your anubhava. It is your anubhava. It is your experience. And it just really what happens is that we feel, oh no, there must be something else. This is part of the mystical nature of our search. No, it cannot be that simple. It must be so, these Mahatmas, they are very rare people. They may be rare people, but because they follow through with it, doesn't mean you and the Mahatmas are both the same. You are just as rare as they are. There's no difference. You just refuse to see it, that's all. This is how foolish we are, really. that we refuse to see Atma, we refuse to see Brahman, and we refuse to see Ishvara. All three of them. Even though Ishvara and Brahman and Atma are really right, the fact that I am an independent awarer. Swami Maheswaranji had given a beautiful example. He said, he says there was one of my, so this is what is called asangaha. Atma is asangaha. It is not tied to the experience. So really your awareness is not tied to anything. This is a very beautiful thing. Swami Dayanand used to say the same thing, that supposing you are looking at thing number one, and the awareness of thing number one is now very true. You're looking at a book. Then you turn your drishti to now looking at other part of the table. So if the book awareness hung in with you, then on top of this, the book will also be sitting. And then you look at the wall, now all three of them will be sitting together. But that doesn't happen. You have a book drishti, and then you have a table drishti. It's completely asangaha. Look at that. So Maheswaranji had given this beautiful example. He says, there was a disciple of mine, and very unfortunately his wife died. And he was a businessman, and he used to come to my classes, and it was a big tragic happening. His wife died, and he says his life was shattered, and he was just he was not the same. I found he says, I don't want to live anymore. My wife is gone. She was my absolute ardhangini. So I said, no, it'll be okay. Your children need you. Keep on going, this, that, or the other. So I assured him. But he says, no, Swamiji, I don't. He was completely devastated and so on. He says, 6 months later, I was passing by, and on the roadside, he and 3 or 4 people are enjoying golgappas and panipuri and chaat and laughing their head off. He says, asangaha. This is exactly the same thing as the drishti of the book, the death of his wife. If he was affected by the death of the wife, that would never leave him, then I would say, there is an asangaha. And that doesn't happen, because we have people that die, people that are born, people that are associated, people that are disassociated. It will be a mess. Look at the creation of Ishvara. We have the option of being sangaha, of being associated. Basically, we are a sangaha. How long the dukkha of a wife's death lasts, we don't know. We don't know. Not very long. Not very long. We are still independent. And so, the awareness is Advaita. Swamiji says, don't you see it? It's just that we only focus on the Dvaita, that's all. But if we focus on the Advaita, it is Advaita. And the Advaita is real and the Dvaita is non-real. How? Because my feeling about something doesn't last. My awareness of something doesn't last. But my awareness inheres forever. So the Advaita is always there. The Dvaita comes and goes. In fact, really it's not a Dvaita. It is just a form of Advaita. So the ocean is the Advaita and the waves are Advaita. And the waves can come and not come, it doesn't make any difference. And then there are some further arguments that the Purva Pakshi gives on the 6th chapter, which I will, because of function of time, I won't do. So this is a very clear enunciation. And so it has two parts to it, which was very revealing to me when I went through the whole thing with Swami Vidyaranya and Swami Maheshananji. And it really clarified to me that really it is not just knowledge, it is experience throughout. My whole life is nothing but an experience, one which is tinged with overemphasis towards Dvaita, and then when I understand the Advaita, I begin to become independent of Dvaita. So perhaps we will do this in meditation also a little bit. So this is one thing. The second thing which I promised to you, there are two main things which have been very helpful, and we'll have to study this in more detail some other time. The second thing, I will do it as part of the meditation. So I will briefly touch on this first part also in meditation, just to remind you of it, although it was just now, so there's no real need for it. So I'll see how it goes, but let's focus on the second aspect of Tattvamasi. It'll be clarified as part of this meditation. So let us do that. Okay? So let's do meditation.
Get the light.
That's not, it's okay. Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Just prepare for the meditation as we have seen before. Just pick out 2 or 3 steps from the 7 or 8 steps that we have done before. Sitting in a erect posture, but relaxed. Focusing on the sense of touch. The body touching outside things like the chair and floor. Focus on that. And then the parts of the body touching each other. Ending with the gentle touch of the 2 eyelashes touching each other. also review the state of the body in terms of harboring any tension. Pause and relax that portion of the body which is harboring tension. The Shruti tells us that you, the Atma, the awareness, also called Sakshi, the witness, is witnessing you the conscious jiva. The conscious jiva is also called the ahankara. One way to distinguish between these two, the Sakshi and the Ahankara, is to perhaps give them two names. The Sakshi is I, and the Ahankara is me. The me is associated with both the body and the mind. Also, the Shruti points out the me is a reflection of I. it is very similar to a person looking at the reflection in a mirror. Even though there are two entities, the one standing in front of the mirror and the other one reflected in the mirror, they are in fact one and the same. You cannot count them as two people. Similarly, the me and I appear to be different. The I is always the Sakshi. The nature of awareness, unchanging, independent of any happening. The nature of I am aware, and I am unlimited. That is the Sakshi. The me is an awareful being but unlike the I, it is mixed up with the body-mind complex. It is also at a particular place and time. Very similar to a reflection in the mirror which is dependent on a number of factors: the light, the quality of the mirror, or in other reflecting surfaces, the state of the reflecting surface can be moving, and so on. In Tattvamasi, there are two things that can be seen. One is what is directly seen, which is the image in the mirror, the reflection in the mirror. So for an ajnani, a person who is not cognizant of the truth, you look at the reflection and you think that's you. But in fact, for a jnani, the reflection merely indicates that you are different from the reflection. The confusion in our life is because I take my reflection to be myself. But the wisdom taught by the Shastra, by the Shruti, shows that what you take yourself to be is me, not the I. Once this is pointed out, the me no longer causes a problem to me. This is the ultimate freedom. This is the Sahaja Samadhi. At that point, whatever is happening to my body-mind complex becomes fun and games. It's not deadly serious. Just like if my reflection seems to disappear, it makes no difference to me. In the Mahavakya Tattvamasi, the word lakshyate, lakshana comes. This will be clear in seeing the example of the reflection in the mirror. In the mirror, standing in front of the mirror, the fact that I cannot see myself directly but I know the reality of myself by looking at the reflection. This is called Lakshana Vritti. This is indicated. You cannot look at yourself, the eye cannot be seen directly. It is not an object that can see itself. But once I see my reflection, then I know I am there. Similarly here, if I understand that what I take myself to be the body-mind complex is in fact my reflection, the reflection cannot be unless I am there. Makes the distinction between me and I very clear. This is the knowledge through the Shruti. This is also consistent with Yukti. You can see this is exactly what happens. And this is also consistent with my Anubhava, my own experience. That the me keeps changing, but the I does not. I am that awareness which is Advaita. The me and the things seen by me create an appearance of Dvaita. But it does not disturb the Advaita. This is the teaching which is summarized in the first chapter of Pancadasi. Oh. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So the course, when we introduce the course to you, a guide to intelligent living, which pointed out that in our life, both where we should go, where we are going, and how to get there was talked about. And in summary, what the teaching of the Vedas is that your sense of travel in life has to be directed where the waking up of the self, the waking up of the jiva, is the real travel. If we travel from one place to the other seeking happiness, that is a false travel. The real travel is to understand that there is no travel. I am everywhere. The awareness that we spoke of is there at all times, at all places, in all situations. It is there with me, as I. And so this is the way to show what the path of the life is. So this is the introduction to the intelligent living. The intelligence of life, intelligent living in life, means that I don't go around in circles, going same place over again, lost, frustrated, but that there is a sense of direction. There is some progress, a measurement of the progress. I may not see the goal very clearly, but I know that I'm coming nearer. I know this is the direction, and I need a guide. Shastra is my guide. Even when I'm lost, Shastra says, no, you're okay. Go ahead. So this was the introduction to the intelligent living, which has been given by the introductory chapter of the Pancadasi by Swami Vidyaranya. And then we had said, what results can I expect by completing this course? So here, the results we can see is, you will gain an insight, as I mentioned, I'm just reading my own notes on this ad. You will gain an insight to grasp this fact. You may not complete it yet, but you will get a good insight into it. And what that would mean is that the sting of happenings in your life will be muted. You'll be less troubled by things that appear to you, sukha dukkha. You'll have more of a reliance on yourself. Maybe not a complete reliance yet until you go a little further, but the direction is pretty much set. In effect, you will see the grandeur, the mahima of yourself, the Atma. And the Atma's Mahima is Ishvara's Mahima. It is not the Jiva's Mahima. The Jiva just has to let go. And if you do that, then the local, highly limited advantages of Jivatma give rise to an enormous promise of Paramatma. So this direction we should get a very firm handle on. And Swami Maheshananji said it best. He said, you will know that you are on the right direction if your reflection on this gives you joy. Any time you study, it gives you joy, that means you're headed in the right direction. He said, things that give us joy, we never get tired of. There are two examples. We don't complain to the doctor, all my life, I require food and I'm happy with food. What is wrong with me? We don't do that. Hunger is a beautiful example, an invitation to eat and to become triptaha. We do this sometimes even more than 3 times a day, 4 or 5 times a day. And we never get tired of it. All our life, because it gives us joy. Going to work is not joy for most of us, or for some of us. That we may not, they'll say, why do I have to do that? We enjoy the weekend. But eating is joyful. Another example is, we never get tired of looking at ourselves in the mirror. Never. You may actually get old and you don't like to see some of the wrinkles on your face and the loss of hair and so on and so forth. It doesn't matter. Whoever you are, you love it. When you're brushing your teeth, just before you brush your teeth, you look at yourself. Then after you brush your teeth, now you've already just looked at it like half a minute ago, maybe a minute ago. Where is the reason to look at it yourself? You catch one last glimpse at yourself before you leave the mirror. Swami Maheshananji says, when the study of the self becomes the same way, you love it. You never say, why do I have to go to the Vedanta class? Why do I have to study? If you have not yet discovered it, that means you have not reached the path in the right direction. But if it gives you joy every time you study, you'd rather do this. There are so many different aspects of understanding, different examples, different books, so joyful. That means that your quest for Ishvara is, you are on to the quest and won't be long before you will reach it. So that's my good wishes to you. I hope that we got a glimpse of that, and then we will continue to inspire ourselves for the study. And with that, I thank you for allowing me the time. Every time I teach you, I enjoy it for myself. It is not something where I say, I'm sitting here and these guys, no. This is an opportunity for me to think on my own, to sharpen my own understanding, and I appreciate the ability to do that with your help. Hari Om. So with that, this course is now over. I had sent you some emails with this brochure for the next class, and I actually got some printed from this email, from this online service. So I have a few copies of this. And I think anytime we change a text is an opportunity to introduce new students. Otherwise, it's very difficult to do that. And so I would appreciate any help that you have. I have quite a few of these. You are welcome to come and take. My feeling is that this text that we are taking, Dakshinamurti Stotram, is a little bit more advanced than the first chapter of the Pancadasi. Advanced in the sense that it is more cryptic. We are going to cover a lot of ground in a very short amount of time. And so there isn't enough time to really go through the details of each step and so on. So that's what I would call advanced. That when we discuss something, then you should have been familiar with some of the terminology for it anyway. That's what it means, advanced. And it's also highly regarded, as you know. And we have gone through the first verse of that anyway, so you know, have a pretty good idea. And instead of, I'm still trying to wrap my mind around what exactly, how much time I will take, how will I study it, and so I'm beginning to get more comfortable in not having to stick to the words of the individual verses, but to conceptualize it in a way. And so I'll continue to do that. I'm doing that in Bhagavad Gita, as you know. I will continue to do that for Dakshinamurti Stotram also. So given that, my feeling is that it doesn't make sense for us to put this in on grocery stores and so on, because people will not appreciate, they will not get out of it. They even won't come, and even if they come, they'll... But I think what we could do, so for example, the Livermore Temple, I was thinking that we can ask if people, you know, because they've asked for some talks to be given, and now that we have the online, perhaps some people may be interested, I don't know. And so what we could do, if you want, is take some of this and just place it there, and I'm willing to also send an email to tell me who I should send it to. So I think we could, if we can simply go to the temples, perhaps, that might be a good way for us to, and any other ideas that you have. So anyway, I have quite a few of these. This is a very good price. I got a bulk, you know, Sriram Reddy, who moved to Florida, he led us on to this. Amazing. Within 2 or 3 days, and the stock is excellent, the prices are excellent, so I think we're going to start using it from now on. Anyway, I have some of these here. I actually have some more in my car also. So please take these, and if you want to invite any of your friends to join this, I'm very happy to start this course. We'll do that 2 weeks from today, and I already have about 30 people who have already signed up. And but I think that I'm very interested in getting some new people on it. It'll be my challenge to figure it out. So with that, goodbye, and hopefully we'll see many of you in 2 weeks from now.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.